Hello. It's great to be here. I have something I think off topic, but
nothing is really.
Yes. So when I was young, I suffered big with addiction, with drink and drugs. When I was 25, I went to meetings, and I got sober, and I started listening to yourself, Eckhart Tolle, all the Law of Attraction, and I implemented it, and I lived the life beyond my wildest dreams, manifested things that I thought was impossible. And then a few years ago, I got so well in myself. I listened to yourself and others saying there's no such thing as addiction, and I said,
oh, well, there is such thing as the law of attraction, and there is such a thing as momentum, and so therefore there has to be such thing as addiction.
Okay. So what I done after 12 years sober and clean, I decided that I got so well in myself that I could have an occasional drink.
Yes, you can.
And I tried that.
Yes,
and
what happened?
What I found, I went back to my old self and drinking excessively, and went back using drugs again.
So what that means is we are completely wrong. No. Well, what that means is that the belief that you had about addiction was still dominant within you. You wanted to believe what we know to be, but your experience follows the pattern of your beliefs. And so this is the question that, if you don't mind, we're going to leave yours aside for just a moment. We'll come back to it. But this is the question that we're really on in this forum here today. Is it necessary to change a belief in order to find improvement? Or could you just not activate the belief? Are you with us a little bit? Isn't it logical that taking the alcohol or the drug didn't change the subject, it just activated that subject again? It activated it because your belief is where you last left it. Let's go to the stick pile that we were talking about just now, and let's put addiction. Can you give us a brief definition from where you are now? There's no right or wrong answer here of what addiction is. Define it.
For me, addiction is like this, is that when I go out and drink or take other substances, is that some people can do it and have 3 or 4 drinks and go to bed. I would continue, and the minute I wake up the next morning, it's like my whole body craves alcohol and drugs again, and I don't stop.
So you've described what the experience is like for you.
Yeah.
Can you define it? Give us a definition. We will do it. Addiction is representation of my powerlessness against beliefs. Now, we took it away from the alcohol and the drugs. Addiction is proof that law of attraction actively summons that which matches it. Addiction is evidence of momentum of thought. So the question that this stirs up here is, can I get there from there? Can I take a thought or a subject like addiction, and can I think my way out of it? Can I think my way out of addiction? Because when you think about it, there are no inner being addicts. Well, that's not true. We are addicted to love. Make a good song. We have plenty of momentum, and that's sort of what an addiction is. An addiction is a momentum. So if I deem something inappropriate for me, this falls a little bit in the category of, if you think you shouldn't do something, if you believe that doing it is detrimental and you do it, that puts you in the worst state of attraction that you could be in. For example, if you don't want to go somewhere, but you decide to go anyway, well, we'd like you to want to go before you go. We want you to find the reasons that you want to be there before you go, and then you don't have split energy.
That's exactly what I done when I picked up the drink. What I done is that for a while, I practiced all this. Other areas of my life with the law of attraction, family, relationships, business was like unbelievable. So I came back into picking up a drink to enjoy it, socialize with my wife, and at the start that worked. But then a few months down the line, I went back to the same way I was when I was 20 years of age.
So the behavior activated the past experience. That's why we are encouraging our friend, don't do this in order to change something, do something for it. Don't hook into source energy so that you can drink without getting drunk. Don't hook into source energy so that you can drink without becoming an addict again. Hook into source energy for the thrill of hooking into source energy. But when you hook into source energy for the ulterior motive of the other is what's activated. Does that make sense to you? You couldn't have brought a better example to us. And we really acknowledge with enormous appreciation that you believed enough in what you heard from us, that you were willing to risk something that your beliefs had spoken differently about for so long. People who are part of that Alcoholics Anonymous movement are serving themselves very well because they are acknowledging that this is my belief, and so they are behaving in accordance with what they know their belief to be in order to get the best results. That's sort of like path of least resistance thing. In fact, this is the best example that we could find in any arena to talk about the difference between just finding the path of least resistance and lifting up off of that path altogether and finding a place of no resistance and then being inspired. So the true question that you would have to ask if you felt like risking another experiment with yourself, and we're really not encouraging it, although it could be fun. If you can be sure that you're under the influence of source, in other words, if you've daydreamed yourself into alignment, if that impulse comes from what you know to be a true daydream of alignment, you'll be all right. But if it came from a wanting to prove something, everything that we're going to be talking with you all about in the whole time that we are together in these days is about, this is the question that is at hand, and the answer to it will serve you so well as you discover it through your own life. The question is, under what influence am I when this impulse that I feel like following comes?
That's exactly what happened to me.
Because you see, we've never known anyone, and don't take this the wrong way, take it however you want to. Most people do not drink under the influence of source. Most people drink to forget the discomfort of not being under the influence of source. Because under the influence of source, you're receiving your replenishment from the energy, not from the drug or the substance. You're receiving your clarity from that energy. But a lot of people have to drink in order to cause their active concerns about life to subside, and then they catch glimpses of what they think is alignment, and maybe sometimes it is, but they can't sustain that alignment because the substance doesn't allow them to collect and gather and maintain awareness with what that feeling of alignment felt like. Everything that everyone's looking for that makes them want the substance. And let's just begin by saying to you, we're not trying to talk you out of the substance. Sometimes it's because it's delicious. A lot of it goes very well with food. Sometimes it just takes the edge off of you. In other words, we're really not trying to get you to do something different than what you're doing. But we are encouraging you to do more and more things that you are inspired to do with conscious awareness that you are under the influence of source when you are doing it. So under those conditions, under those unconditions, you will find yourself more inspired to your true nature of upliftment. You will discover that you don't need to carry something around with you in order to be tuned into that energy. It's there for you. And there's something about the drug or the alcohol that in the vibration of most people is some sort of a crutch. I just feel better when I've got a little bit of that. I feel a little less self-conscious. I'm a little more these are the kinds of stories that so many of you tell. But when you're already tuned in, tapped in, turned on, because you've been practicing that, then you feel less inclined to do the things that cause you to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, or that you formerly thought would cause you to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, because you're already tuned in, tapped in, turned on. It'd be sort of like if you are warm and glowing, you're not looking for a blanket to warm you up. But if you're shivering, sort of like today, then you're looking for the blanket to wrap up in. Does that make sense to you?
Perfect, yeah.
Do we get there for you?
Yes, 100%. Perfect. Thank you. Doc.